The episode opens with Officer Luke listening to a voicemail from his son Adam, complaining about his stomach ache and begging for the day off school. Luke plays the recording for his partner Misha, admitting that Tracy will say no, but he's the soft touch. They prepare for a raid alongside other officers, communicating with their partners via radio. Using a battering ram, they force entry into a house where Eddie and Amanda Miller live with their daughter Lisa and their 13-year-old son Jamie. Luke arrests Jamie on suspicion of murder, reading him his rights. Jamie, in shock, insists he hasn't done anything. Amanda, distraught, questions why the police needed guns for a child, while Eddie argues there's no way his son is guilty. He reassures Jamie and tells him not to say anything. Jamie is taken to the station in a police van, crying as Luke orders him to calm down. Jamie keeps insisting on his innocence, but Luke tells him they'll talk about everything at the station. He advises Jamie to ask for a solicitor because it is in his best interest. Upon arrival, Jamie requests a solicitor and wants his dad as his appropriate adult. The officer approves Jamie's detention for questioning, allowing them to preserve evidence. Jamie can be held for up to 24 hours. As Jamie's family arrives, he sees them behind a locked door and wants to go to them, but an officer tells him they need to process him first. He is placed in a holding cell, offered breakfast, but is too scared to eat. Luke questions Eddie about the solicitor, informing him that Jamie has chosen him as his appropriate adult, meaning Eddie must be present for all interviews, medical exams, and any samples taken. Luke warns Eddie that if Jamie has admitted anything to him, he cannot serve as his appropriate adult, as it could jeopardize the case. Eddie insists Jamie has done nothing wrong. Amanda and Eddie tell their daughter Lisa to go home, but she refuses, asking what will happen. Amanda reassures her that it's all a mistake. Luke and Misha discuss Eddie. Luke shares a past case of a boy they took months to realize was being abused by his father. Misha says she doesn't see anything like that here. A booking officer tells Luke that since Jamie is underage, the council needs to determine where to place him after the charges. Luke says Jamie is accused of stabbing someone with a kitchen knife, so they'll figure that out later. He then calls Tracy to check if Adam is going to school and asks her to keep texting him updates. A nurse assesses Jamie in Eddie's presence, noting that he is a bright boy and doesn't appear particularly vulnerable. Jamie breaks down, pleading with Eddie to believe him. Eddie reassures him that he does. Paul, Jamie's solicitor, arrives and speaks with Amanda and Eddie. They complain about how the police tore their house apart, but Paul explains that's standard in a case involving a violent death. He admits there is not much he can say to make the situation better, but promises to do his best for Jamie. Paul gets briefed by Luke, who confirms that the murder took place at 10:30 p.m. The victim, Katie Leonard, was stabbed multiple times. They're still trying to notify her family, so the media doesn't know yet. Jamie has scratches on his arms, and blood was found at the scene. Eddie is required to be present while Jamie undergoes medical procedures. Jamie's photos, mouth swab, and fingerprints are taken. When asked for his phone passcode, Paul advises Jamie not to provide it. Jamie is strip-searched, which Eddie is visibly uncomfortable with, but the officers insist it's necessary to check for concealed evidence and injuries. Paul reassures Eddie that it's beneficial for Jamie's defense. Paul speaks privately with Jamie and Eddie, asking Jamie about school and his history, concluding that he is an intelligent kid. He advises Jamie to answer no comment when asked about the events of the night, but assures him that both he and Eddie will be there to support him. Jamie insists he hasn't done anything wrong. Outside, Eddie, overwhelmed, admits to Paul that he has no idea what he's doing. Paul advises him not to answer for Jamie and to just be himself. Eddie, teary-eyed, worries about getting it wrong. Paul warns that the police likely have compelling evidence, given how they handled the arrests. Before the interview, Eddie asks Jamie to look him in the eyes and swear he's telling the truth. Jamie promises he didn't do it. During questioning, Luke asks Jamie about his night, but he responds with no comment. Luke praises his school record, but points out behavioral issues in the past year. Jamie refuses to discuss personal problems or his friends. Luke shifts the topic to Jamie's views on women, referencing aggressive comments he made under Instagram photos of models. Jamie claims he's attracted to women, but denies having a girlfriend. Luke asks if he'd want a girlfriend who looks like the models he follows, and Jamie says no because they're too old. Luke then brings up Katie Leonard, confirming that she and Jamie were in some of the same classes. Misha asks if they got along. Jamie isn't sure, but Misha notes that Katie occasionally commented on his Instagram posts. When asked how others might describe their relationship, Jamie suddenly asks, "Is it her who's dead then?" Luke, surprised, asks why Jamie would phrase it that way. He confirms that Katie was murdered and implies Jamie already knew. When pressed about their relationship, Jamie says they weren't really friends. Misha asks if he was attracted to Katie or if there was anything romantic or sexual between them. Jamie denies both. Misha tells Jamie that Katie left her house at 8:30 p.m. and her body was found in a car park at 10:30 p.m. Luke asks where Jamie was during that time. Jamie says no comment. Eddie, when asked, says he was on call and he wasn't home to confirm Jamie's whereabouts. Luke and Misha present CCTV footage. Jamie was seen walking alone past the library at 9:17 p.m. Minutes later, Katie appeared. Jamie was caught on camera following her. Eddie demands Jamie explain why, but Jamie refuses to answer. The officers play footage from the car park. Jamie and Katie are seen arguing. She shoves him, he pushes back, then repeatedly hits her. Jamie cries as Eddie watches in horror. Luke asks Jamie how he got home and noticed, and why his clothes are missing. Jamie remains silent. The interview is terminated. As Jamie tries to speak, Eddie turns away, devastated. Then breaking down, he asks, "What have you done?" Jamie sobs, insisting, "It wasn't me." Eddie, in tears, finally hugs him. The episode kicks off on day 3 with a memorial outside Katie's school. The whole community is still shaken by her murder. Detectives Luke and Misha arrive to continue their investigation, and Luke leaves a voicemail for his son Adam, who goes to the same school, letting him know he might be stopping by his class. At the school, the head teacher warns Luke and Misha that the students are still struggling with what happened. Meanwhile, in class, some students, including Tommy and Ryan, talk about the police inquiry. Tommy is convinced Jamie is guilty, mentioning that the cops asked him about a knife. Adam listens to his dad's voicemail but gets interrupted when another student throws trash at him and demands money. A teacher steps in, while other staff discuss parents' growing concerns about safety, with talk of security guards, metal detectors, and a grief support room. Luke and Misha speak to Jade, Katie's best friend. Luke introduces himself as the lead investigator and gives her his contact details. He tells her they've arrested someone but still don't have all the answers, especially about the murder weapon and motive. When asked about Katie's relationships, Jade insists Katie had nothing to do with Jamie, despite Instagram posts suggesting otherwise. Suspicious of the questioning, Jade accuses the detectives of trying to damage Katie's reputation and walks away. The detectives then visit Jamie's classroom, asking students for any info about the missing knife. Luke gives his contact details to Mr. Malik, the teacher. Outside, Misha wonders if the weapon is still at the school, but Luke believes it's a key piece of evidence that Jamie could use to make a deal. They also reflect on Jade's anger. Luke suspects there is more to the Katie and Jamie story than they first thought. In Katie's class, students realize Luke is Adam's dad. One kid mocks Adam by snorting like a pig, but the teacher steps in. Just as Luke is about to talk to the class, the fire alarm goes off and everyone heads outside. In the playground, Jade suddenly attacks Ryan, kicking him to the ground and accusing him of killing Katie before a teacher pulls her away. Later, Luke and Misha question Ryan, pressing him about Jamie's behavior on the night of the murder. Ryan is vague, saying Jamie seemed normal and that he barely knew Katie. When Luke asks where the knife is, Ryan gets agitated and asks to leave. Luke refuses, sensing there is more to the story. Jade, still shaken, waits for her mom. A teacher suggests she visit Katie's parents, but Jade refuses, saying they wouldn't want to see her. She explains that Katie was the only person who truly accepted her, and now that she's gone, she feels completely alone. She storms off before the teacher can say more. Luke later meets with Adam, hoping his son might have some insight into the case. Adam shows him Instagram posts where Katie had been calling Jamie an incel, a term from the online manosphere referring to men who believe they're involuntarily celibate. The posts, including a dynamite emoji, were actually mocking Jamie, humiliating him. Adam suggests Jamie was being bullied. Luke is stunned, realizing they may have misunderstood the situation. Luke updates Misha, revealing that Kate was bullying Jamie, not the other way around. Misha is frustrated, saying cases always end up focusing on the killer, not the victim. She worries that Katie will be forgotten, while Jamie's name is remembered. Luke argues that their job is to get justice for Katie's family, but Misha isn't sure they'll ever really understand Jamie's actions. Luke and Misha return to question Ryan again, but as soon as Ryan sees them, he panics, jumps out a window, and runs. Luke chases him through the school until Ryan hits a dead end. Luke demands to know if he helped Jamie get the knife. Ryan finally breaks down, admitting the knife was his. He insists he only gave it to Jamie to scare Katie, not to kill her. With Ryan's confession, Misha arrests him for conspiracy to commit murder. Luke tells her to book him in and charge Jamie, knowing they finally have enough to close the case. Afterward, Luke waits for Adam outside school and invites him for chips and coke, trying to reconnect, and Adam agrees. The episode ends with Jade standing alone, wiping away a tear as she looks back at the school. The camera pans over the town, stopping at the parking lot where Katie was murdered. Eddie Miller steps out of his van and lays flower at the memorial. 7 months after the murder, Bryony, a psychologist, visits a detention center to assess Jamie. A guard mentions he recently got into a fight with another inmate, but both boys blamed each other. Bryony watches the footage but doesn't let it sway her. She's here to make her own assessment. Before their session, she grabs a hot chocolate from the vending machine, adding marshmallows. She remembers Jamie likes them. When they meet, he notices and thanks her. She also offers him half of her sandwich. At first, their conversation is light. Jamie jokes that she sounds like a grandma. He talks about his grandparents, saying his dad's side is very particular. His dad and granddad are similar, both tough, traditional men. But when Bryony asks what masculinity means to him, Jamie gets defensive, like she's reading too much into things. They talk about his dad, an emergency plumber who works long hours. Jamie says he's kind but has a temper, recalling when he tore down a shed in frustration. He insists his dad has never hurt him, but admits there were times when his dad seemed ashamed of him, especially when he struggled with sports. When Bryony asks about the fight, Jamie brushes it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. She tries to bring the conversation back to masculinity, but he shuts her down, accusing her of trying to trick him. He demands to see her notes, but she refuses, reminding him that she's there to be fair. Jamie then questions why he's locked up when Ryan, another boy involved, gets to stay home. He complains about the facility, calling it a madhouse, full of boys screaming at the TV. He insists he doesn't belong there and swears he didn't do anything. He refuses to sit. When Bryony tells him to, he snaps, yelling that she doesn't control him. He knocks over his hot chocolate and shouts at her until a guard steps in. Bryony reassures him that everything's fine. Jamie apologizes, and instead of ending the session, she stays. Later, Bryony steps out for tea. Jamie asks for another hot chocolate. Bryony watches him through the security cameras. A guard comments that words can lie, but body language tells the truth. Bryony stays quiet, observing Jamie as he sits there, lost in thought. Back in the room, Bryony makes it clear she's not a cop and isn't trying to get a confession. She just wants to understand his perspective. Jamie agrees to answer her questions, saying he feels better. She asks about his parents, and Jamie insists his dad is a good husband. He doesn't talk to other women and loves his mom. When she brings up his friendships, especially with girls, he says he doesn't have many. He admits he wants a girlfriend and imagines taking her to the cinema, maybe for a walk after. When Bryony asks about intimacy, he says he's kissed and touched girls before, but then immediately takes it back, admitting it never happened. Then Bryony brings up Katie, the girl whose private photo was leaked. Jamie asks how she knows about her. He admits he saw the picture, but so did everyone else. When she asks how he felt, he says he liked it, but insists it didn't make him feel powerful. Bryony asks if Katie sent the picture to impress a boy named Fidget. Jamie says she did, but Fidget shared it, and that's how it spread. He's annoyed that because of this, Fidget probably won't get more pictures from other girls. When Bryony states that Katie is dead, Jamie quickly clarifies that he didn't mean he expected more from her specifically. Jamie says he doesn't think girls are attracted to him because of his looks. He clearly wants Bryony to contradict him, but she doesn't. Instead, she focuses on how he sees himself. Frustrated, Jamie accuses her of twisting his words. He throws a chair across the room and yells. A guard moves to step in, but Bryony signals him to wait. Jamie mocks her for staying calm, accusing her of thinking she's better than him. He paces, then finally sits back down. Bryony brings up his history with bullying. He downplays it but admits he was targeted. She asks about his Instagram, pointing out that he follows a lot of models but doesn't post much himself. When she brings up Katie's comments, mocking ones referencing incel culture, Jamie confirms their meaning. He says she was calling him undesirable and that others joined in. He admits it was cruel but never confronted her about it. Jamie swears he had nothing to do with Katie's death, but then he tells Bryony about a conversation they had. He says he approached her after her photo leaked, offering support and inviting her to the fair. He admits he saw an opportunity, thinking her embarrassment might make her more open to him, but she laughed in his face, saying she wasn't that desperate. After that, she kept mocking him, making him feel even worse. Then Jamie admits he confronted Katie the night she died. He had a knife and she was scared, but he insists he didn't touch her. He argues that most guys in his position would have taken advantage of the situation, which in his mind makes him better than them. Almost immediately, he backtracks, blaming exhaustion and swearing he's innocent. Bryony reminds him that if he's found guilty, there will be real consequences. As the session ends, Jamie panics. He asks if she'll see him again, and when she says this is their last meeting, he begs her to tell the judge he was honest. She tells him she believes he told the truth, but that her job isn't to decide his guilt. Desperate, he asks her if she likes him, not romantically, just as a person. Bryony stays professional, saying her role isn't to form personal opinions. As the guard takes him away, Jamie yells at Bryony not to report what he said. He keeps asking her to tell his dad he's okay. He pounds on the glass, growing more frantic, while Bryony, holding back tears, finally walks out of the room. A year after the murder, Amanda makes a full English breakfast for Eddie's birthday. Eddie finds a birthday card from Jamie. It has a hand-drawn portrait of him. Lisa tells her dad to go look at his van, which was spray-painted the word nuns on it. Eddie tries scrubbing the graffiti off with soap and water. Amanda wants to leave town and mentions her mom could get Eddie some work, but he snaps, saying he doesn't need her help. He has work, people depending on him, and refuses to move back to Liverpool, saying it would only be 10 times worse. They didn't do anything wrong, so they aren't going anywhere. Lisa tries to make sense of the vandalism, questioning who the insult is even meant for. Jamie is only 13, and the people who did this probably don't even know what the word means. She hesitates before admitting she wasn't able to go into Jamie's room since everything happened. While Eddie is still scrubbing the van, a couple of teenagers pass by and call him the same slur. Eddie tells his family they have to go to Wainwright's, as he can't show up to work with that painted on his van. And he isn't about to leave them alone, not with everything going on. He's trying to hold things together. In the car, Eddie decides they're going to make a day of it. After fixing the van, they'll have breakfast, get cleaned up, and head to the movies, big popcorn and everything. At the store, Eddie runs into an employee called Quint who recognizes him from Facebook. Quint offers his support, saying he doesn't believe the accusations against Jamie, even pointing out inconsistencies in the case. Eddie isn't interested in the conversation. He just wants the paint remover and to get out of there. Outside, Eddie spots one of the teenagers from earlier and chases him down. He catches the kid, who tries to brush it off as a joke, but Eddie isn't having it. He gets in the boy's face, warning him to stay away from his family before shoving him and storming off. Still fuming, he grabs the paint and dumps it all over the van. Amanda and Lisa watch in shock. While sitting in the van, Lisa gets a call from Jamie. He wishes Eddie a happy birthday, then he drops a bombshell. He's been thinking about changing his plea. He's pleading guilty. Eddie is stunned, unable to respond. Amanda and Lisa keep talking to Jamie, both in tears. The drive home is silent, everyone processing what just happened. When they get back, Eddie changes shirts for their planned outing, but Amanda suggests skipping it. She tries to stay positive, saying Jamie sounded better than last week, maybe making a decision helped. She adds that Eddie threatening kids, destroying his own van, isn't him. She knows he's angry, but maybe Jamie pleading guilty is for the best. Eddie finally admits it. When he saw the tapes, he didn't want to believe what he saw, but when he did, it changed everything. They reflect on Jamie's childhood, how he never left his room, always glued to his computer. Amanda remembers knocking on his door late at night, reminding him he had school the next morning. He'd turn off the light but never say anything. Eddie tries to justify it. Kids are like that these days. You can't monitor them 24/7. Amanda wonders if they should have seen it coming, stopped it before it got this far. Eddie insists they can't think that way. It wasn't their fault. Eddie breaks down. He remembers his own father beating him, swearing he'd never do the same to his own kids. He just wanted to be better. Amanda reassures him they both tried. Eddie thinks back to all the things he's done to toughen Jamie up football, boxing, but none of it stuck. Jamie used to love drawing, but that stopped when he got a computer. Eddie got busy with work, coming home late, and before he knew it, Jamie was just in his room. He thought they were doing the right thing. He thought Jamie was safe. Amanda tells him he was a good dad, but he isn't convinced. If his own father made him, then how did he make Jamie? She hugs him, telling him they couldn't have known. Jamie counted on Eddie to protect him because he knew Eddie wouldn't believe it. She suggests that maybe, just maybe, they need to accept that they could have done more. Eddie is still stuck in the past. He keeps hearing Jamie's voice over and over, insisting it wasn't me, and he believed him, until he saw the tape. He wishes it was Amanda in that room with Jamie instead. She would have handled it better. Lisa interrupts saying she'd put something nice on for Eddie's birthday. She makes it clear they aren't moving. Running won't solve anything. Sooner or later, the truth will catch up to them no matter where they go. Jamie is theirs, and nothing will change that. She suggests a movie night at home, rent a film, order takeout, just be together. Eddie and Amanda look at their daughter, amazed by the person she's become. Eddie asks, how did we make her? Amanda answers, the same way we made Jamie. Later, Eddie goes into Jamie's room alone. He sits on the bed, looking around at what is left of his son's world. The grief finally hits him all at once. He curls up and sobs, unable to hold it in anymore. Then he tucks in Jamie's teddy bear and kisses it, saying, I'm sorry, son. I should have done better.